Hello, 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 everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, my friend.
How are you? You got a little man bun going on today.
You know what? Yep, the hair's getting a little long, so I decided if it was long enough to do it, I'm going to do it just to get it out of my way.
You woke up today and chose violence.
I did.
You're like, I'm going to just crush it today.
You know, just Friday, got to get a good start on the weekend, so
Friday vibes.
I'm doing good.
I'm all about it.
Yeah. How about yourself?
I think I'm coming through, by the way, on your side just a little bit.
Oh.
If you're able to maybe turn me down a hair or...
Let's see if that helped at all.
Yeah, I don't hear anything.
Okay, cool.
Excellent.
Cool.
Well, how is your day going, my friend?
Good so far, man. Like I said, Friday, just been trying to be productive, and I've been pretty good so far, so
cool.
I can't complain. Happy it's the weekend. How about you?
Yeah, it's been good. It was a good, very busy week. So usually whenever Friday comes around, I think we've talked about this before, I usually get pretty apprehensive about all the things I did not get done in the week.
That you didn't accomplish during the week? Yeah.
Yeah, so.
I know that feeling.
Anyway, for those of you all tuning in today, thank you, of course, for joining the live stream. This is our casual coffee talk, little chit chat as we wrap up the week. We kind of just talk about whatever's top of mind for us, and also invite you all, if you have any questions or comments about D&D, Critical Role, Worlds Beyond, or anything else nerd related, just drop it in the chat. We'd love to talk about it. So, bro, I feel like I'm a little nervous avoiding spoilers from last night's CR.
Yeah. Be careful out there.
I accidentally clicked on the CR live chat channel, thinking I clicked on CR general.
Yeah,
I was on it just for like a second, and then I was like, just kind of like had a mini panic. And
yeah.
Anyway, so
there wasn't. I mean, I guess I just won't say anything because I feel like if I say anything, it could be interpreted. So
okay.
Yeah, just just be your normal cautious self.
Okay.
Around spoilers, but it was good. I really, I watched the whole thing. I really enjoyed it. So
okay.
I've already seen some people complaining just like last week.
Oh no,
to be expected.
Oh no, that's too bad. I will say I had it up, although it was muted. And chat surprisingly was not as toxic as normal. So I was like, some good things must be happening. But
that's nice. Was it Twitch?
Yeah, chat? Twitch. Mm-hmm. Hello, those of you watching McGurbs. It was just a shopping episode. You begin in a tavern. Nothing happened last night. Don't trip. It was a chill episode. Also added, man bun is chaotic neutral. I'm all about it.
I'll take it.
Larissa said man bun mayhem. That's right. And Elitas Jake, you begin in a tavern. I don't know which name I'm going to go with today. Maybe we'll change it every week. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Roll a con save. Will, I got one of my favorite dice. If I can get the... It's like hang on. I like metal dice. This one is like an emerald.
Metal dice are so nice.
They're fun to use. This is an emerald green, I don't actually know if it's emerald green. I was just being very descriptive, and sometimes I use descriptive words that don't actually match what's happening. I was playing D&D with one of my campaign groups, and I was talking about them leaving. They were like in this like wintry, like snowy tavern, and they stepped outside, and I was like, yeah, you step out into the bustling cold. And because I was thinking of like kind of whipping, like bustling cold, and one of the players was like, bustling, like there's like 50 people out here, or I was like, just bustling cold. But anyway, so
yeah, I feel like that checks out.
I feel like it works. I don't know.
There's some like word that is close to that I think we're both thinking of, but
yeah. I would have
let that one slide.
Yeah, I was like, listen here, okay? I've done many a fanfic.
I know words.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna do a little.
We have our Chubbs special.
Do you think that's still out? Do you think that's still around?
I don't know, man. But it's funny. I saw. I don't want to get too off track here, but that like concept came up again recently, and I was like, if you only knew.
Yeah.
They're talking about like a more modern version.
You know, I'm giggling over here reading Larissa, the random adjective roulette, the Dungeon Master's kit. I feel like I have like 6 words that like I go to, and then like as I'm describing, like, you know, doing a little word painting, like, and I don't know if this is for you guys who DM, I don't know if this is just me, but like for me, you know, it's kind of like the perception versus reality of like you envision like the Matt Mercer, Britton Lee Mulligan, you know, Abria, like beautiful painting, and then as you're actually doing it, you're like, yes, it's a beautiful day and a beautiful, and you're like, stop saying beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, but you're just like, it's the word I keep thinking of. So
Right.
Anyway, yes, Larissa, I did write fan fiction. Will and I, so we've actually never talked about this. Isn't this kind of interesting? In the history of the Pixelist, we've never talked about this. I don't think we have. Will and I have always loved to write. I shouldn't speak for you. I think you still like to write. I know we may not always find the time to do it, but Will and I, from a young age, I say young, like probably early teenager into our teens, loved just like stories and writing stories. And there was a website. I don't know if you showed it to me or I showed it to you, but we both got into Dragon Ball Z at the same time. And we found a website called Chubb's DBZ RPG. It might still be around. I don't know. Now don't go looking for it, because who knows? who knows what like cringy stuff I wrote, 20 years ago. It's like extremely racist. Or like, oh my gosh. No, I'm just kidding. Nothing like that. We've always been decent human beings, so nothing there. But on there we would it was like collaborative. Funny enough, isn't it weird how like things lead to more things? Like it was basically collaborative storytelling, because you would write like this really long thing, and then someone else would jump in and write like from their character's point of view or what have you. And it's kind of like what D&D is before we even knew about D&D.
Yeah. I mean, it is fanfic, but like given like the modern interpretation of the word fanfic, I wouldn't call it that. Like, would you say that's fair? Because it was more of like something like D&D, like, because like you weren't just telling the story by yourself. There was input from lots of people. So I mean, it is fanfic at the end of the day, but just not in the same way you would think about like something on AO3 or something.
I don't know what
you know
AO3
what that
is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe keep it that way.
I don't know what like today's version of fanfic writing is, but it was definitely like Will and I were writing like our own, like creating from nothing, like these expansive stories. And sometimes you would write, like you wouldn't always have someone else part of it. Sometimes you'd have like your own personal story and you would add on to it. And I know Will and I, like we would have like different weeks where it'd be like, yeah, I remember being up late at night, like working for like 3 hours writing on something. And I think you were too or something. And we were like talking back and forth about it. And anyway, it's kind of just,
those were the days, man.
Yeah, really good memories. But Will gives me a hard time because, so it was a DBZ fanfic writing thing. And I was trying to write like this. When I talk about being cringy, this is a great detail. You already know what it is. You're giggling over there. So I was writing from the perspective, I don't remember the character's name, but so on this website.
Retain, right?
Retain. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. So on this website, you like weren't allowed to be like a main character, because it like kind of ruined like the feel of like anytime you were writing with someone, they'd be like, well, I'm Goku. So, so like you couldn't be a main character. You had to be like a side character. And I'm talking like deep, probably like maybe I pulled from the manga. I don't know. But so I wrote from the character's POV of Retain, who was a Namekian. I don't remember any other information about him, but I really wanted to be Broly. You know that. But anyway, long story short, I was writing from this POV of like Retain being like this commander or something, or like trying to like motivate the troops. And this was the season where like everyone loved Braveheart, and they're like, Sons of Scotland. So like the opening like bit of this paragraph was like Sons of Namek, and then Will just like razzed me about it. To this day, it's like Sons of Namek. But anyway, so
classic.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Good memories,
Yeah.
Anywho, long story short, we got a little history of writing,
Yeah.
Alita said, striations and are the words that haunt my GMing. Absolutely. I don't know if you guys ever do this, or Will, I don't know if you ever did this either, but I have so much driving time that I'll practice, sometimes even out loud. Like I'll practice like because I'll have like a 45-minute drive and I'll just like think about how I want to describe something. But then the caveat is when that session finally happens, there are so many things that like unravel it. Because I'll practice like interactions that are going to be in sessions like months down the road. Like if this character ever meets like their long lost mom, what would that conversation maybe look like? But what throws me is that moment finally comes and I just totally like, I can't remember what I was going to say, or the table is like, there's anarchy at the table. Like someone's phone's ringing, or like you think it's a cool moment, but for the players, they're like, they came in like high chaos energy and like goofy energy. And so it's like, and then your mom walks in the door and they're like, what? Instead of like, oh, wow, so anyway, this is my long diatribe on planning important moments. But
no, I totally get that. I don't drive as much as I used to. Because I used to have a commute.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wouldn't like, I practice that same kind of stuff though. But yeah, you really like, I think it's good to do that. Like, I definitely think that's like a good like DM muscle.
Yeah.
But yeah, you totally like everything could just be completely thrown off by like the chaos factor. Which, you see on Critical Role all the time, like the shiver and quiff moment.
Yeah. That's right. Or the what's the more recent one?
Oh yeah,
the flower.
Yeah.
I can't think of what it's called.
The perineum or something.
Such a serious conversation that I love that scene too, because you see Sam look at Laura Bailey. They just both give like a
like, are we doing this?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, my heart just started hurting. I'm laughing so much. Oh my gosh, I'm in tears thinking about this. Yeah, Larissa said, weird GM voice time. I do that in my car all the time. Absolutely. I have like a bunch of different voices that I try. 99% of them, I'm like, okay, that was bad. That was really bad. But some of them I workshop a little bit.
Yeah, you got to have voice time. That reminds me of the GM roundtable. Did you ever watch that?
I did, yeah.
Where they have like a whole bit about, their significant others walking in on them during voice time.
Yeah. Larissa just mentioned such a funny thing too. When you're watching, your parents walk in right when you're watching anime, and it's like the upskirt shot.
Every time, man. It's like, just try it. Just come on, like, or like a friend that you're trying to get into a show. Gosh, it's like the weirdest episode.
I was about to say childhood is so funny, but this would be like last week when like my wife walks in and is like, what are you watching? What are you doing? Nothing. Promise. Oh my gosh, man. So my buddy, I can't remember if I told this story, but my buddy, we were doing a Magic the Gathering night, and so we were playing cards with each other, and we were just all talking about like how we got into Magic the Gathering. And he was talking about when he was a kid, his dad was like crazy, super conservative. He didn't say his dad was crazy, but just like very strict. Yeah. And so he had like bought a pack or something, and he was like placing them all on the table, like kind of in admiration, like you're looking at your set. And his dad walked by, and like the lead card on the corner was like, I don't know if it was like a big boobied like succubus or something, like just like something like sexy and demonic. Yeah. Like the pair, can't just be one. It's got to be both. Yeah. And he was telling the story of like how his dad was like, what is this? Like, what are you doing? Yeah. Like, my son's losing his soul. So,
anyway. I think we've all had our fair share of those types of moments for sure. Yeah. I did, at least.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing in here?
Then you're trying to like change the channel. You're like, I don't know what is this? There was actually a time where I was, it was like a really awkward situation. I was in like someone's house and I was waiting for someone else to be ready. So I was like kind of just awkwardly sitting in this living room while the dad, who was like this kind of like older, gruffer guy, was watching TV. And like a moment like that happened. It was like, it was some movie where like a woman was being like very scandalous or something, and not just like so overtly where I was like, oh, this is it's a little awkward. Well, so I had come in while he was watching it, and I was kind of just sitting down, and I had asked a couple of questions, and he had given like the 1-word answers, but I was kind of just like, okay. Well, then this moment happens, and he goes, "What are you watching?" I was like, oh, I just sat down. I didn't even what. But
he put it on you
immediately. He was like, "Are you watching this?" And I was like, no, sir. You can change it. I've been here about 18 seconds, but anyway. Oh man,
that's hilarious.
Oh my gosh,
it's a canon event for sure.
I'm glad we're like opening up the trauma of being a nerd as a child. So,
what a bold move on his part.
He knew he could get away with it.
Yeah,
this wasn't his first time. Let's be real. So, Larissa, I'd buy a Sons of Namek T-shirt.
Same.
That kind of thing should not exist. So, oh, actually,
we'll see.
You know what though? Do you remember? I don't know if you remember this, but we had like art class or something, and I like drew like, I don't know if it was this moment or it was like a DBZ thing, and that was like, this is like so typical mom. So my mom took that and framed it, and it's somewhere in the house. But there was a period where you'd walk down the hall towards my bedroom, and it would be there on the wall.
I'm sure I'd remember it if I saw it.
Yeah. Okay. I probably covered it up if you were on your way. So, you know, maybe we'll do like a Patreon, and like a stretch goal will be to release the, release the painting or
release the artwork.
I actually,
the ancient text.
I actually went back, and so I wrote for one of those like fanfic stories. I wrote, it was like a 300-page, like beginning, middle, and end. And I put it on a flash drive or something. Like when I went to college, maybe I emailed it to myself or something. It ended up on a laptop. Well, then I found that laptop, took it off. The version of Word was so old that I couldn't open it. It was no longer, it was no longer, you just couldn't open it anymore. Like it was like 15 years. Exactly. It was like 15 years later of Word. Well, then I found a program that would convert it. And so I was able to open it. So actually I have it on my Google Docs.
That's awesome, man.
What if I was like, and we're going to read it right now, actually. So
introducing our new series. Dude, yeah, I think I have like somewhere on some flash drive or something, I have some of my stuff, but I'm actually sad. Like, not that any of it was good. Like, I'm sure I would cringe out of my skin, but it would just be cool to like look back on some of that stuff. So that's awesome that you still have that.
Yeah, it's definitely cringe. I opened it and was like, not like in a weird way, but just in a like, this is so bad.
Right. Just like a 13-year-old thinking they're writing really cool,
very edgy
battle scenes.
Yeah, that's right. Unseal the tome. Release the Snyder cut of this awful fanfic. I can't respond because I'm just laughing at Eric's comment of that dad had a massive pivot to throw a passerby. I can't even read this because it's so funny. Oh my gosh. What a
legend, man. His wife was in the room. He just didn't want to take the heat.
The tears, man. I can't. Oh my gosh. All right. So I didn't expect us to start here. I expected us to, oh my gosh. Too funny. Too funny. So, in the news this week, let's just make a hard move away.
Hard pivot.
In the news this week. Have you? I know you're not playing WoW Season of Discovery because Phase 3, the level 50 dropped a couple weeks ago, and then Cataclysm, the pre-patch for that, dropped on Tuesday. So had a chance to finally do a raid last night in that and experience a little Cataclysm. I had notably about half the number of signups for that raid as I normally do, which makes me wonder how many people are going to play Cataclysm and what's Blizzard's long-term plan. Because also with Season of Discovery, the raiding population today is like 90K less than it was in Phase 1. So Do you have any thoughts on? I know you aren't playing WoW, but like, what do you think they should be doing? Do you like kind of the direction they're going? As someone who's not playing, like, what's your take on it?
I don't know, because I played the first phase, and it's not like I just decided to quit. It just kind of happened. So I don't know if that was like, I don't know how much of that is just me and like what I've got going on, or if there's like a subconscious, it wasn't really hooking me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the balance of that is, but um, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't surprise me that, I mean, I don't know, like 90K, like what's the total? Like, is that a massive drop off, or is that like 10%?
That's a good point. I should have.
Yeah.
I should have done some more research, but
No, I was just curious, because it makes sense to me that it would be less and less,
right,
as it goes on.
There'll probably be a bump back at 60, right? But
yeah, I could see that.
do you think how do you think you've changed as a gamer, like as someone who enjoys video games today, compared to your younger self or high school self? Like, has your preferences, like your appreciation for games changed? I mean, like, how do you approach it?
I think I've had eras for sure. Like, especially recently, like the COVID era was like a resurgence for me, because stuck at home, and that's when I started streaming like a ton. So I played a ton of games. But then like the last like year or half a year to a year, I haven't really played much at all. But I think like in terms of my taste, they've largely stayed the same. Like, like there's been eras where of course I'd love WoW, but I think that's more about the not game aspects than the game aspects, if that makes sense.
Like the
playing
social,
with you guys and like the community, and so when I'm actually playing like a game for the game, I love a good like story, like a good like narrative indie game, and I feel like that's kind of been pretty consistent throughout I'm either playing games like for the community, for the friends, but if I'm playing a game just for the game, it's usually for the same reasons throughout my life, I'd say.
Don't you think it's kind of interesting, like being kids and like you could play all day, like you could play all day, like going to like I remember going to your house and not just playing games, but like watching you play a game, and like it was never boring. Yeah. Like you could do it for hours. And then there's today's world. Today's world's such a weird way to put it. Where we are today, where we rarely get to play in that same regard. And even I don't want to speak for you, but I know a lot of times for you, when I have free time, it's pretty rare that I'm like, all right, what games am I working through? Now I have a lot of games in the catalog. Yeah. Like I have Baldur's Gate, which I haven't touched. I have a couple PlayStation games. Why do you think like is that just like maturity, or is it like the existential?
I don't think so, I mean,
the existential
citing back to COVID,
or,
like I was playing games like all day. Like when I was like around when Elden Ring came out too, and that's like a core memory for me now. Like
that's right, you did play that. Yeah, I haven't played that. It was
such a good time.
Yeah, I own that. I own that.
I know, dude. You need to. I'm telling you, that's what you need to like. You need to make like carve out an hour every other day or something, and just start that, because it's amazing. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, maturity insofar as you have different priorities as you age, but not as in like I'm too mature for video games. You know, which I know that's not what you were saying, but just to like
not
clarify that a bit.
Yeah. No, I mean, and for me, like I think my without being like existential, like my worries in life have really grown. I guess honestly, as social media has been more pervasive, like you can't go anywhere without seeing like the latest horrific. And now on Reddit, by the way, I don't know if you've noticed this, but actually I don't think you scroll Reddit ever since.
I mean, I really I used to all the time, but ever since they got rid of the third party stuff, I like never use it.
So there used to be a subreddit called, I think, Watch People Die, and I always avoided it. Well, now, so I think that subreddit's gone, but now you can just be scrolling through, and it's like a vague title, like, I don't know, this isn't vague. If I said like road rage gone wrong, or like, it would be something like, he won't make that decision twice. And it's someone who like tried to choose someone out, and then they get shot and killed. Or like I saw one where like a tanker exploded and like people were like walking around on fire. And like, I find myself in these moments of like, holy crap, like the access to stuff that is very traumatizing that I never expected to be exposed to as a kid. Like nowadays I have to like consciously be extremely careful because it's not like on Reddit, at least it's not flagged like it was maybe 5 years ago. Like you could very easily see someone die on social media with just a few clicks. So it's hard for me then to like, you know, what video games do I want to play today? You know, so
I get that.
Anyway,
but I feel like you gotta, I don't know if compartmentalize is the right word, but like, and I don't know if this sounds insensitive, but like we can't like carry every burden of the world. You know what I mean? So I feel like you still got to make time for yourself, and that doesn't have to be video games, but
yeah.
And also I totally agree with what you're saying as far as social media and like the access to those things just popping up. So again, agree, but I will also say like in the early internet when we grew up, I felt like it was worse in that regard. Like, you know, I saw so many horrific things just like on, like, you remember that YTMND?
I know the website.
The You're the Man Now Dog site.
Yeah, I know the website. Yeah, but I don't remember the specific one.
You remember that site? It was basically just, I don't even know how to like describe it.
You'd have like your own like meme page under this sub. It was a subdomain of YMTND.
YTMND, I think.
Yeah, whatever. But so there'd be different pages that were under that.
Yeah, and like, you know, a lot of them were like fun or memes, but then like there would be like a horrific video that was just like, so I just remember, not to just single out that site, I have one specifically that I remember happened there, but you know, I just feel like early internet, it was just, you never knew what you were going to get.
Yeah. I kind of worry about my kids today in the sense of like, because it's so like misunderstood today, like how to navigate it compared to when we were kids. Like I think you and I maybe talked about this, but like I know like 5 or 6 months ago there was like some like hearing by like some like government hearing on like social media. This wasn't like the TikTok thing. This was like something else. And like apparently like everyone, all the elective officials in the room like didn't even know how to like navigate, like how to even get on social media.
It's crazy.
You know, and it was like, this is okay. If I didn't already feel bad about it, now I really feel worried about it. But anyway, I think you're right. I think you have to not just, for me, it's not just about compartmentalizing. It's like, it's not feeling guilty by turning it off. And I know that doesn't sound like intuitive, but I've had many people growing up who always said like, hey, you got to be active. You got to be engaged. You got to be in the know. Like you can't. And I think there's a level to that with like, I think Israel and Palestine's a good example of this, of like when there's like worldwide crisis happening, it's good to be informed and it's good to be engaged. But in terms of like the endless amounts of horrors that happen every day, like I think it's okay to not just compartmentalize, but just to be like, I'm not even, I didn't hear, like there's been times when Joy has even been like, hey, did you hear about what happened? And I'll say like, I didn't hear it. And like, hey, I'm sorry, but I didn't even want to know about it. So we went from like laughter to like very, very serious.
This stream is touching on all the bases.
So moving on to self-fulfillment. What will I be when I grow up? No. But yeah. So anyway, what's like the next game you would want to play? Like what's at the top of your list?
Well, not that, okay. There's a couple things I do with, speaking of Elden Ring, that DLC's coming out. I don't know when. I think sometime this year. So I've been kind of, I don't know if I want to do like a completely like fresh playthrough necessarily, but I do want to like refamiliarize myself before that comes out. So I've been thinking about that. And then I have a long list of like indie games. Like for like, I've been curating that list for like years at this point. So there's a lot of stuff on there I want to check out. I haven't like narrowed it down to like a for sure, like this is the next thing I'm going to make time for, but
yeah,
probably something like that. Like a, not like a necessarily one session game, but like a real, like a 6 to 8 hour type of.
Yeah. I'm trying to finish, the Final Fantasy Rebirth Part 2.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm like over halfway through with that. Elitas, I love that you just said that. Elitas said, I'm super stoked for Ghost of Tsushima coming to PC. I'm going to lose myself to that all over again. It's the best game I've ever played. Elitas, that is in my top 5 for like most want to play games right now. I've already bought it, but I just haven't haven't played it. But Joy, my wife, I've shown her like the trailer to it a bunch of times. So she knows I'm really excited about it. So I'll probably play something like that if I'm playing on the PlayStation. If I'm on PC, I really want to work through Baldur's Gate because that was like my OG like first foray into PC story gaming with Baldur's Gate 2, Icewind Dale, Neverwinter Nights. So anyway,
yeah, I mean that's on my list too. Now that you say that, I'm almost worried to break the seal on that one because I feel like I'm just gonna it's just gonna be obsessed until I beat it.
Yeah. Larissa said, "Have you ever played Fantasy Life?" I haven't heard of that. Have you? It does make me think of Fantasy High. You remember that trailer?
The dinosaur.
Yes. Oh, I said Fantasy High. I'm grabbing the Dimension 20 name. But yeah,
I knew you meant.
Yeah, the dinosaur Fantasy High School game.
Did that ever come out? We Pixel's playthrough.
Oh man. We're gonna have to. This is the episode that's gonna be the birth of our Patreon because there's gonna be so many like stupid stretch goals. Like, watch us play this game together, and like the 10 people who actually like interact with us like semi regularly will like love it. But like the majority, like 90% of people are like, "What is this stupid game?" And like,
who are these dudes?
Yeah, and then we're on like the cringe subreddit or whatever. two middle-aged men joking
Our
about
home spot right there.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. Let me just Google it really quick. I don't think I'm familiar with that, Larissa. Let me see. No, I haven't played this, but if it's a cozy fantasy game, it sounds up my alley.
Is this the Nintendo 3DS? Is this the game? Or is this like, are you talking about like a newer version coming out?
I have no idea.
Dude, speaking of like the old days of the internet, I think of like the old days of portable gaming, like when, like, not the Game Boy, but like when it evolved into like the 3DS and like, I don't know, the whole concept of like traveling and gaming was such like a wild feeling.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay,
a long way.
I had something else to talk about, but I have something else to talk about just as we're kind of moving towards the back half of our conversation. And we do have a question in our Pixelist live stream, so we'll maybe park here for a second, then we'll go to the questions, the Q&A, and then we'll wrap up. So I got asked to do a Star Wars one-shot for someone's bachelor party weekend.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know really anything about Star Wars lore. And I know the guy who's getting married is like heavy junkie for Star Wars. Like any new show, he's like, oh yeah, this is the talking about these characters. Like he would be the person to be like, oh yeah, that's the story of Retain, and Retain has the deep knowledge.
Yeah.
So on one hand, I'm pretty nervous about like what story I would do with them that wouldn't be like offensive to the lore, I guess.
Yeah.
But then also like I'm curious, like, would I take 5e and just do it in a Star Wars setting, or is there like an actual system that people use for something like that? I don't know. You have any ideas or advice?
I bet they're most certainly are Star Wars systems, but I mean, for your convenience, I would just probably do 5e and then like just reskin it,
Yeah, that's
just
good
to make it
advice.
easier on you. But is this his idea or is this like a surprise?
This is his best man is in my one of my campaigns, and I think it's his best man, or he's in the wedding party, and was like, hey, on like Friday night into the month, would you be willing to do this? And I was like, yeah, man, of course. But yeah, so anyway.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, so you probably can't, like, you won't have his input on it, I guess.
I don't think so. Yeah. I think it was more of like planning the bachelor weekend. What if Friday night was a Star Wars one shot? Hey, Blake, you're at least average at this. Would you? And we have no money, so you're the perfect fit.
Yeah, I think that'll be really fun. I was just gonna, if he did have input, I was just gonna see if we are more looking for like he wants to play like as Luke Skywalker, or if it's gonna just be like original characters just set in the Star Wars universe. Which, if it's the latter, I think you can get away with not really, like, you just decide which era you want to put it in, and then you can have some cool Easter eggs. But I
Yeah.
wouldn't think you need to worry too much about like getting things right with the lore. You could just kind of like reskin all of your stuff to have a Star Wars flair. But if he wants like to be Han Solo, then might I don't know if Ben happens to be in here, but I don't know if you remember Ben from
Yeah.
the Twitch days, but he's a big Star Wars guy, so he could probably help you out if you needed to like
Yeah.
dive into some lore.
Yeah. Now, you guys feel free to throw in the D&D channel any advice or suggestions you all have. I definitely don't think I think I'm more of the latter there, though. I don't think I would do a one shot where someone's Luke, because there's just too much. I don't know. It feels disingenuous, I guess. Like, D&D is so like collaborative storytelling and like feeding off each other. Like, if someone's like that monumental a character, it's hard for like kind of the, I don't know if I can't find the right words, but
no, yeah, I know what you mean. I would agree. I would definitely do the original characters set in the universe, but I just wasn't sure if this was like this dude's dream. He's like, no, please. But yeah, I'm sure, bro. I'm sure you'll absolutely kill it. So I wouldn't stress about that at all.
We'll see. We'll see. Let's go to the Q&A as we're wrapping up today. Let's see here. By the way, I'm loving the all the Tomb of the Warlord playlist for each character.
Yes,
that's been really fun. And then Larissa,
and the artwork.
Yes, the artwork has been really fun too.
It's been incredible.
Yeah, it's been really fun. So we got a few questions. Larissa said, have you ever run a game where the PCs were at different levels before? If so, what were the pros and cons? And if not, would you? I would not run a campaign where there was like a significant level difference, because there's so much player power in the levels that like I wouldn't have like a level 10 with like a level 3, because it's just I feel like at the table everyone should feel like they have a list of options for like what they can do, and it feels too heavily weighted if someone's like high level. On the same token, if someone was like level 6 and someone else was level 5, I think those could be interesting story details, and that I have no problem with. And then also for me, I'm not very like balance oriented. Like when someone wants to homebrew or do a twist on something, 9 times out of 10, I'm like, sure, because it kind of all works out anyway. But
yeah,
I don't know. What's your take on it?
So I never have DM'd that situation, but I think I agree with you. The only well, let me say two things. I could see it happening in like somebody that's not normally a player, that is like only coming for this one session, like maybe there's a friend in town or something. Then I could see that being a cool thing to play with if they were like a vastly different level, either higher or lower. That could be fun for like a shorter amount of time, but not like an entire campaign with a big discrepancy. But then I'll say something Brennan has been doing, and not really to an extreme amount, but, and this, no spoilers, but in Worlds Beyond Number, like players will level when like certain moments happen with them specifically. So I kind of like that. And so maybe there's like a session or two where somebody's higher than everybody else, but for the most part, they're all leveling at the same time. So I like that idea too.
Yeah, I like that. Eric said, killing a high level guest character could set up a long-term BBEG. I think it's a great idea. And I think just separate from that, it's a great way to indicate to the players, like when the players are like, yeah, let's stay and fight. And you're like, he just disintegrated your, what's that old movie, by the way? This is such like a latent memory, so I can't even describe it. But like, there was like the actor who had like star billing ended up like dying at like the very start of the film. And it was such like a curveball because like all the marketing was around that character. I can't. I'll have to look it up because I can tell it's not pinging, but it was basically like
about Michael J. Fox.
I don't think so.
There was like Mars Attacks.
Oh no,
his character like gets taken out real quick.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of Mars Attacks, but it's some memory. It's like a low B tier kind of film. But basically, whoever was like the movie was the trailers with this character, that character just dies at the start of the film, and then you're like, okay,
interesting.
So I always thought that's kind of interesting. But anywho, 2-part question from the prize. First of all, is there a subclass you feel is missing from 5e?
I don't know enough.
Yeah, for me, like the lines are so blurred on like what's homebrew, what's playtest material, or like unearthed arcana, and like what's like official. Like whenever I look for inspiration, I'm so in all of those things that I know it's hard for me to like find the lines on like what's an official class versus not. Mm-hmm. I will say, having played Gloomhaven, I really enjoy the spin on some of those classes, and in many cases, those classes aren't present, or they're present in some form. Like the Tinkerer is a lot like an Artificer, but there's some like style details that I really like in Gloomhaven that you don't get in D&D. But the second part of that question is, are there two subclasses you feel are redundant of each other in 5e? I don't typically think of it that way in terms of like the landscape of like the design space. I more think of it like what's really interesting for the players. So one example of this is like fighters. There's one, when we talk about fighter subclasses, there's one that sticks out and the other ones don't always get utilized. Or on a totally different example, and I think they're fixing this in 1D&D, but like Rangers have a stereotype of being a garbage class, basically. So I typically think of it that way more than just like 30,000 foot view, like design space, which subclasses aren't gelling well. I don't know if you're similar or not with that, but
I don't know. Like we talked about this previously, but I've only ever played a bard, so like I know that class. And then as a DM, since we've talked about this again, so I'll be short about it, but like I was the player that had to like get the group together, like so nobody like really knew D&D, so it's daunting to try to get all those rules. So I was like, hey, you guys are in charge of your mechanics. Like I'm not gonna know if like what you're doing is correct or not, but I'm gonna trust you. So like I just like learned what I had to learn. So I have like the most surface level knowledge of classes and subclasses. So I feel like I can't even comment.
I think there's different styles of DMs. Like I have a friend of mine who his approach is he's read the player's handbook front to back. Like he just knows it. He loves it in that way. I'm a bit more like you. A lot of my like discoveries on rule sets are when like my player says like, yeah, and for a bonus action, I can have advantage for all my moves for the next hour, and anything over a 10 is a crit, and the bad guy instantly dies. And I'll be like, they'll say something that's like just enough where I'm like, I don't remember that. And so I'll be like, is that what it says? And sometimes people will be like, yeah. And then they'll read it and be like, oh, wait, no, it didn't say that. Or someone will just confidently be like, yes. And then like, I'll kind of sixth sense go back and read later and be like, okay, that's not at all what it says. Or like I had a player who was adding +10. They're adding +10 to one of their attacks. And I was like, is that what it says? And they're like, yeah. And then I went back and looked and I was like, it very clearly says +6. But, but hey, what do I know?
Hilarious. Hey, so they took a swing. So.
Which maybe I told them +10. I don't know. This was like a long form campaign, so we just moved kind of quickly. But that's honestly how I learn a lot of the rule sets, is by those kind of awkward moments where I'm like, ooh, I need to look that up. And then also like the fact that like, let's be real, the current Critical Role team, how often they're asking questions on like, the whole like you don't roll for scry bit. I should say bit, but like I also try to give myself a break if I don't know something, because here's these experts who are still being like, how does this work? What happens here? So anyway. All right. Hey, we went a little long today. We had to hit all the childhood memories. So anyhow, coming up soon, we'll have Worlds Beyond Number. That'll be probably by Monday at the latest. Critical Role, I'm going to try to watch that this weekend, so we can record that as well. We'll have our live stream next Friday. And then, as always, just be in our Discord if you have any things you want to talk about. That's a great place to do it. So I will say one thing Will and I floated, and I know we're at the very end of our recording here, but something Will and I floated was doing our deep dive discussions, like the long form content, doing those live as like a live stream. Because we're already recording it anyway. So be curious, like what you all think about that kind of stuff. If you like that kind of idea, or if we should just keep doing it the way we do it. But anyway, something to think about.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, were you going to say anything?
That's all I got. I was just going to say thanks for tuning in. Happy Friday, and hope everybody has a great weekend.
See ya.
Goodbye, my friends.